Most lists of mind-bending movies recycle the same safe titles. You've seen them. The films in this video are different. These are movies that slipped through the cracks, too disturbing, too quiet, or too unsettling to become mainstream. Some were ignored because they asked questions people weren't ready to face. They're philosophical experiments that went too far. Let's start with Jacob's Ladder from 1990. The film deals with a subject that plunges the mind into darkness. The moment of your death stretches out forever. The story follows a Vietnam veteran experiencing increasingly disturbing visions. His reality fractures, time loops, faces distort. But here's what makes this film genuinely unsettling. It was made years before The Sixth Sense, yet it goes infinitely darker. Where The Sixth Sense gave you a twist and closure, Jacob's Ladder traps you in the space between life and death, where consciousness itself becomes a prison. The philosophical core here connects to Tibetan Buddhist concepts of the bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth. But the film asks something more terrifying. What if your entire life is just the dying dream of your last few seconds? What if trauma doesn't just affect your mind, but actually reshapes the fabric of reality around you? Every moment you remember, every person you love, just neurons firing in a brain that's already gone. Now, let me take you somewhere even stranger. Innocence, from 2004. Imagine a school deep in a forest. Only young girls attend. They live by strict, unexplained rules. They wear color-coded ribbons. They perform mysterious rituals. And the film never, not once, tells you why. You'll have a sustained feeling that you're watching something you shouldn't be watching. The genius of Innocence is that it operates on pure symbolic logic. The school might be a metaphor for the transition from childhood to womanhood. Or it might be a cult. Or it might be death itself, preparing souls for what comes next. The French director Lucille Hadjihalilovic creates a film that feels like a half-remembered dream, where everything means something, but nothing can be explained. Philosophy calls this phenomenology, the study of consciousness and direct experience without rational explanation. And that's exactly what this film does. It asks you to feel the wrongness, the subtle horror of systems we follow without question. Here's where things get really interesting. The Stone Tape from 1972. On the surface, it's a ghost story. A research team moves into an old building. They hear screams. They see apparitions. Standard horror setup, right? Wrong. This film flips the script and asks, what if ghosts aren't supernatural at all? What if traumatic events can literally be recorded into the physical structure of a place, like data on a tape? The researchers in the film aren't trying to exorcise spirits. They're trying to play back recordings embedded in stone itself. This connects to a genuine philosophical theory called the stone tape theory, which suggests that intense emotional or traumatic events can somehow imprint themselves on the environment. Think about it. You walk into a room and feel uneasy for no logical reason. Is that just your imagination? Or are you picking up on something recorded in the walls themselves? The film was made for British television and is incredibly hard to find now, but it pioneered an idea that would influence everything from paranormal investigation shows to films like Pulse and The Ring. It asks whether consciousness is purely biological or whether it can leak out into the world around us. Let's talk about boundaries, specifically how fragile they are. Visitor Q from 2001 is not an easy film to watch. Director Takashi Miike created something that deliberately violates every social taboo you can imagine. A dysfunctional family descends into absolute moral chaos. Moreover, Mike conducts a philosophical experiment. He's asking, what happens when you remove all the artificial rules society has constructed? The family in the film represents so-called normal civilization. They have jobs, a home, relationships. But scratch the surface, and everything collapses into violence, degradation, and primal chaos. The film is influenced by the philosophy of transgression, the idea that true understanding only comes from crossing boundaries and examining what we've been taught never to examine. It's uncomfortable because it suggests that the difference between civilized and savage is paper thin, that your moral framework isn't based on truth, but on conditioning, and that underneath every polite conversation, every social nicety, there's a bubbling chaos waiting to break through. Now, imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning. Everyone is gone. Every person on Earth has vanished except you. That's the premise of The Quiet Earth from 1985. A New Zealand scientist wakes to find himself completely alone. At first, it seems like a standard post-apocalypse scenario. But then the film starts bending reality itself. The sun sets in the wrong place. Time behaves strangely. And the ending? The ending is one of science fiction's most profound existential punches. Without spoiling it, I'll say this. The film ultimately asks whether individual consciousness can exist without other consciousnesses to define it. It's based on solipsism, the philosophical idea that only your own mind is certain to exist. If you're truly alone, how do you know you're real? How do you know you ever were? The protagonist's isolation becomes a laboratory for testing the limits of sanity and selfhood. And the film suggests that reality itself might be a collaborative construction, something that only exists because we all agree it exists. Let's dive into prophecy. The Last Wave from 1977. An Australian lawyer begins having vivid, terrifying dreams about an apocalyptic flood. Aboriginal symbols appear everywhere. Ancient myths start bleeding into modern life. Time itself seems to be collapsing. Director Peter Weir creates a film that doesn't follow linear logic. It follows dream logic, mythic logic, the kind of knowing that comes from intuition rather than reason. This connects to Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, the idea that all humans share a deep layer of unconscious knowledge, filled with universal symbols and archetypes. The lawyer in the film is tapping into something ancient, something that exists outside of time. The Aboriginal characters in the film possess a different relationship with reality than Western culture allows. They understand that time isn't a straight line, that past and future can coexist, that dreams can be more real than waking life. The film asks whether rationality has blinded us to other ways of knowing, other ways of being, and whether those other ways might be trying to warn us about something we've forgotten. Finally, let's talk about the camera, about watching, about recording. Benny's video from 1992. A teenage boy obsessively films everything. He watches violent videos. He becomes disconnected from direct experience. And then he commits an act of shocking violence and films it. Director Michael Haneke creates something clinically cold. There's no dramatic music, no emotional manipulation, just observation. The genius of this film is that it makes you complicit. You're watching Benny watch videos. You're watching through his camera. The film asks a question that's more relevant now than ever. Does recording something change the thing itself? When you experience life through a lens, through a screen, do you stop experiencing it directly? The boy in the film doesn't seem to understand that what he filmed was real. He treats actual violence the same way he treats movie violence. Haneke is exploring what philosophers call simulation theory in culture, the idea that we've replaced authentic experience with representations of experience, that we no longer live in reality, but in a world of images of reality. And the camera is actually a barrier between you and actual existence. So here's what connects all 7 of these films. They're not interested in giving you answers. They take the fundamental assumptions you make about reality, consciousness, morality, and time, and they dismantle them piece by piece. If even one of these films stays in your head tonight, then it did exactly what it was meant to do. Thank you for watching.